Good morning, everyone. Welcome to CWM, Sealand Wednesday meeting. Today's mini seminar topic is 2022 Economic Outlook by Lawrence Yun. The subtitle is Take the Good with the Bad. Okay, and this is from the Realtor magazine, All Issues. So first, to take a look at just a brief about what happened last year 2021. Well, we've lost more than 800,000 Americans to virus. That's pretty much fact. And the employment market is improving, but not back to pre-pandemic levels right now. And many workers quit their jobs, and there seem to be help wanted signs in windows on every street in America. That's also kind of interesting scenery these days. And inflation is quietly stealing our purchasing power. That also true. And the homelessness is highly visible in major cities. That's also looks like that's reality. And there is more wealth accumulation in the country than ever before. So it's kind of a contradicting situation. We see homelessness is increasing, but there are more wealth accumulation in the country than ever before. That's also true. And despite some volatility, the stock market hit new highs last year, and home prices consistently increased. That's also true. We want to take a look at the numbers later on. And Americans' total net worth rose by 31 trillion between the onset of the pandemic, beginning of the pandemic, and the middle of 2021, the largest hike ever in an 18-month period. We want to take a look at why the assets are increased. Okay, so that's kind of just a brief description of what's going on right now. And the subtitle Lawrence had was Housing Shines Bright. Housing market shines bright. We're going to take a look at some details. Well, home sales are at their best in 15 years. We are in real estate business. Either you are investors or if you are the professionals in this field, buyers, sellers. Anyway, home sales are at their best in 15 years. More than 6 million existing homes and about 800,000 new constructed homes will have been sold in 2021. Well, he said will have been sold, meaning they're going to finalize the statistics for 2021. I mean, right now is February, so it's about 2 months that they can finalize the statistics numbers for the previous year. The best performance since 2006. That's kind of the brief description of what's happening in the real estate market, especially residential market. Again, the more than 6 million existing homes sold and about 800,000 new homes sold. Even though low interest rate played a great role, we know that affordability are changing, meaning house prices too high, so not many people can buy. House prices, home prices have increased by 25% since March 2020. The initial relief brought by lower interest rate is wiped out by higher prices, especially impacting first home buyers. That's also true. it's a very difficult situation for the first home buyers. The first home buyers now account for less than 30% of home sales, down from 35% in the early months of the pandemic. So during pandemic period, first home buyers reduced from 35% to about 30%. Some statistics says less than 30%. So that much first home buyers having tough time. The current homeowners are faring much better, meaning somebody who has the house already, then they're doing good, much better, of course, because homeowners nationwide have accumulated 5 trillion in equity during the pandemic. It's kind of sort of a conflicting situation. We see a lot of homeless in the major cities, but the homeowners, they accumulated 5 trillion in equity during the pandemic. So the poorer becomes poorer, and the richer becomes richer. Over around $67,000 for a typical homeowner. So average wise, if you own home, average you accumulate your home equity $67,000. And if we take a look at super expensive area, San Francisco market, the typical homeowner has seen a large, juicy gain of even $300,000 equity increased. So the renters in the Bay Area, it has become nearly impossible to own when the median price has gone up to $1.3 million. Again, in comparison, Bergen County in New Jersey, median price still would be about $460,000 or $470,000. But the Bay Area in San Francisco, the median price is $1.3 million. And the home ownership rate could be therefore decline unless more is done to increase housing supply. But that's true. Home ownership rate still we're looking into 65%. We talked about homeowners rate last week's presentation. So that's kind of some details about the housing market at this moment. What about the rising rates and inflation aspect? Inflation poses a challenge, of course. Okay. Further, the mortgage rates are set to rise this year. The Fed has two main focuses this year. One is full employment and manageable inflation. So employment and inflation. So two main focuses. And right now, 4 million fewer Americans are working compared to before the pandemic. That's some statistics, but the unemployment issue is a less important measure because those who are not searching for a job are not counted. Okay. The real problem is inflation. The highest core inflation in 30 years is forcing the Fed to rethink its approach. Everybody knows that by this time, right? Reducing the purchase of mortgage-backed securities and raising short-term interest rates are inevitable. Also, we talked about numerous times, the end result of those policy actions will be higher mortgage rate. Lawrence Young forecasted about 3.7% by the end of this year. And the rents accelerated. We're talking about the rent now. The rent accelerated in the late month of 2021, with the government data showing a 5% annualized gain. But private sector data of large apartment owners indicate an even faster rent growth. But we'll talk about one of the news later on. The Blackstone, the famous wealth management company, purchased an apartment complex recently from their with the trust money. So rent will rise again this year and the following year. So let's say this year to 2022 and 2023, rent will go up again and again and on. The current rental vacancy rates are essentially at 40-year low. So practically there's no vacancy. That is on the top of all-time low for sale inventory. So rent vacancy is almost zero. You can see that. There's no vacancy. And we have a very limited low for sale inventory. So you can imagine what's going to happen. And the Fed inflation fighting policies won't contain rising costs immediately. In other words, whatever they do, Fed, they will do this, to do that, but they cannot control the inflation immediately. Okay? Inflation will be with us throughout 2022. So right now in February, we have a long way to go this year, but still inflation will be with us throughout this year. In addition to higher housing costs, the meat prices have gone up by 12% as of November, and gasoline prices by 50%. And but personally, I don't go to the grocery shopping and particularly purchase meat. Usually, we don't purchase meat, but it's gone up 12%. I don't know. You may feel it. So grocery shopping, you have to pay more. I presume so. And the gas, of course, I can realize that. Perhaps this is the hint to eat veggies. Lawrence is kind of interesting person also. He suggests that, okay, let's not eat the meat. Maybe we can eat veggies and fruits. Interesting number he got is those veggies and fruits didn't increase the price. So which have risen in prices only 3%. Is that true? Again, I'm not quite sure, but he's a number guy. He's very good at numbers. So he's suggesting that we eat veggies and fruits and also buy electrical cars. And the rising apartment rents have boosted the multifamily property prices, where we'll see that the Blackstone news later on. But this may be why investors are buying single-family properties. Well, also a couple of months ago, huge funds are moving into purchasing mass number of single-family houses as an investment. Okay, so they're talking about the same thing. Home purchase for reasons other than primary occupancy rose to 17% of all transactions in October. So that's a lot. In other words, not the purpose of using as a primary residence, but mostly investment purpose, rose 17% rose to 17% of all transactions in October. Moreover, some investors may have looked to the past to find that real estate is a very good hedge against inflation. There are many aspects about these investors putting into money into real estate. One of the reason is this real estate is really good hedge, the method to protect inflation, okay, against inflation. That's known theory for a long time. The combined impact of investor purchase and repeat buyer transactions, sorry about this, will avoid home sales in 2022. Okay, still there are investors and repeat buyers. Unfortunately, yes, we said already in the beginning, yes, it is tough situation for first-home buyers. That's why they are reducing in terms of numbers. Even with the rising mortgage rates. Mortgage rate is climbing up right now, but still there are a lot of investors and the repeat buyers in the market throughout 2022. So existing home sales are expected to fall by only 2% after a nice 14% cumulative growth in the past 2 years. So home sales is really, number of sales we're talking about grew about 14% for last 2 years. But this year, the existing home sales, number of sales might reduce by only 2%. But home prices will not fall, and in fact, will rise by 4% nationally. That's what Lawrence looking into. Okay, that's Lawrence's forecast. Probably he is one of the best number guys in the nation in terms of real estate market. He is a chief economist in NAR. And yes, he's a Korean fellow. Okay, let's take a look at some chart. And this is the strength in home sales. It's a number of sales. Okay, we want to take a look at year by year. And 2019, this is percentage increase. 2022, 5.6%, and 2021, 6.4% increase. 2022, we expect a little bit slowdown in terms of unit sales, number of sales. Okay, that's what you see here. But home price wise, okay, 2021, see that 14.7% increase home price wise. And this year might slow down a little bit, but still 2.8%. In the earlier, he said 4%. And this is interest rate. Okay, of course, 2021 was the lowest, and even 2020, even lower than 2021. Okay, but 2019, before the pandemic, 3.72. So now we are climbing back to pre-pandemic. Okay, and this is a home price as inflation hedge. So again, he's emphasizing the investing in the houses, the real estate, is a good method to protect inflation, the influence of inflation. So we call it inflation hedge. And let's take a look at here what it says. They compared from 1970s. The home prices increased at the time 9.9%, and then next year 5.5%. I mean, there's a decades, 1980s, 1990s. So 1970s home price increase of 10%, but the increase is reducing, and 2000s, this decade's only 2.3%, but 2010 increased to 4.9%, but the next decade, 2020 and 2001, it increased 4%. So you can see sharp increase, recent increase. And this is inflation, okay? So what the Lawrence trying to point out is always home price increase is much more than what? Inflation. Okay. So in this case, recent years, look at that. Inflation, let's say we got 3%. Okay, year 2020, but the home price increased 12%. So we can beat inflation. And year 2010, that decade also, inflation 1.8%, but home price increased 5%. So also we beat the inflation. So in this 1990s, maybe very small differences. And but the most recent years, we really beat the inflation. Okay, so that's a kind of interesting chart that Lawrence come up. By the way, this is out of the fall magazine of realtors, NAR Realtor magazine. So nationwide realtor magazine. 잠깐 서머리 해드리면요. 지금 로렌스 연은 이제 전체적으로 지금 한 우리가 80만 명 정도 바이러스 때문에 이제 희생자를 냈고요, 사망자가. 그리고 employment 마켓 이제 굉장히 증가하고 있고 상당히 다른 좀 이렇게 conflicting 되는 뉴스를 얘기하는데 홈리스가 많이 늘어난 것 같습니다. 메이저 시리에. 그 반면에 하우스, real estate 가지고 있는 분들은 에쿼티가 엄청 늘었다. 그래서 net worth가 한 31 트릴리언 정도, 31 트릴리언 정도가 늘었다는 거죠. 재산이. 네. 그래서 부자들은 더 부자가 되고 가난한 사람들은 또 더 가난하게 되는 그런 연도가 아니었나 이렇게 생각을 하고요. 스탁도 좀 이따 뉴스에 볼 거지만은 좀 업앤다운은 많지만 전체적인 흐름은 굉장히 스탁 마켓이 좋았다. 그런 이제 오버뷰인데 하우징 마켓은 어떠냐 하면 하우징 마켓은 일반적으로 얘기할 때 15년 만에 베스트 이어였다. 이렇게 이제 볼 수가 있고 왜냐하면 existing 하우스가 600만 대 이상 팔렸고 그다음에 뉴 하우스는 한 80만 대 이상 정도 팔렸다. 그래서 그게 이제 베스트 퍼포먼스다. 2006년 이후에 상당히 긍정적인 그런 상황이고요. 그런데 이제 집값이 오른 걸 보면 엄청나게 올라서 2020년 3월 달에 비해서는 집값이 지금 25%나 올랐다. 작년 대비는 지금 집값이 보통 우리가 한 15% 정도 그죠? 1년 사이에는. 그리고 이제 상대적으로 그래서 집값이 오르니까 first home buyer, 처음 집 사시는 분들이 많이 못 샀다. 그래서 팬데믹 전에 한 35%였는데 first home buyer 포션이 지금 한 30%로 떨어졌다. 어떤 통계는 25%까지도 얘기하는 데가 있는데 아무튼 그래서 이제 에쿼티가 많이 늘어났고 평균적으로 한 집에 한 6만 7천 정도의 에쿼티가 늘어났다고 본다. 그러나 무슨 크레이지 같은 마켓이죠. 샌프란시스코는 평균 30만 불의 에쿼티가 늘어났다. 이렇게 보는데 왜냐하면 그 지역은 미디언 프라이스가 1.3 밀리언이다. 버겐카운티는 한 미디언 프라이스가 한 46, 7만 정도 될 거예요. 우리 최근에는 버겐카운티 미디언 프라이스 통계가 잘 안 나와서 캡처를 좀 못했지만은 아무튼 그런 지금 레지던셜 마켓이다. 그래서 전체적으로 홈 오너십 레이트이 좀 떨어질 것 같다. 지금 현재 한 65%죠. 집을 더 이렇게 공급하지 않으면 홈 오너 레이트이 떨어질 것 같다. 이런 지금 얘기를 하고 있고요. 그러다 보니까 이제 렌트하고 관계는 어떻게 되느냐. 그리고 인플레이션이 지금 큰 챌린지를 지금 와 있다. 그런 상태인 거죠. 그래서 빨리 이제 페드가 대처를 해야 되지만 그러나 일반적으로 볼 때에 그렇게 인플레이션이 빨리 잡아지지는 않을 거다. 적어도 올해 안에까지는 계속 인플레이션이 갈 것이다. 그렇게 보는 거고요. 그 인플레이션이 지금 현재 글쎄 우리가 피부로 우리 그로서리 쇼핑하시는 분들은 느끼겠지만 통계상 고기 값이 12% 정도 지금 올라갔고요. 그리고 가솔린 프라이스는 50% 올라갔다. 그래서 이제 로렌스 연이 재미있는 어떤 서제스션, 힌트 말하자면, 야 이제는 우리가 베지 채식을 하자, 과일이나 채소로 많이 먹자, 그리고 전기차를 사야 되겠다. 뭐 이런 서제스션을 했어요. 그러면서 그런 베지나 야채나 과일은 3%밖에 안 올랐대요. 전 이건 몰랐었는데 그게 실질적으로 그로스 마켓에서 사실인지 모르겠지만 아무튼 그런 좀 조금 비슷하게 그런 얘기도 해놨고요. 그러면서 아파트먼트 렌트 비용이 굉장히 올라갔고 그래서 멀티 패밀리를 찾는 사람이 많아서 너무 값이 올라가서 오히려 인베스터들이 싱글 하우스 쪽으로 많이 몰렸다. 이제는 뭐 싱글 하우스도 거의 이제 사기가 많이 힘드니까 다시 또 칸도 쪽으로 돌아가지 않겠는가. 근데 이제 칸도 코업이 조금 문제점이 있는 것들을 뒤에서 뉴스에서 좀 우리가 얘기를 해놨어요. 자, 그래서 많은 사람들이 투자용으로 집을 많이 샀는데, 그러니까 본인이 들어가 살 집이 아닌 투자용으로 사는 트랜잭션이 17%나 늘었다. 그런 지금 보고가 있고요. 그다음에 이제 앞으로 그러면 2020년도에 어떻게 될 것이냐 볼 때에 existing home sale이 약 한 2% 정도 떨어질 것 같아요. 아까 여기 보면은 1.7% 정도 떨어질 것 같다고 해놨죠. 올해. 그래서 한 2% 정도 떨어질 것 같고 그리고 집값은 떨어지지는 않을 것 같다. 약 한 4% 정도 전국적으로 볼 때 올라갈 것 같다. 그런 포캐스트를 로렌스 연이 지금 해놓고 있습니다. Okay, that is it for today's presentation.